Episode 2, An Asylum for Mankind.
Able but arrogant, sensitive to slights, he would become one of the most important commanders of the American Revolution. His name was Benedict Arnold.
Okay, I don't recognize that name, I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names.
Now, rebel is a term that the British will use and the Loyalists will use to apply to the people who call themselves the Patriots. So to be a rebel means that you are rejecting the legitimate authority of your sovereign, King George III of the British Empire.
Sure, that makes sense. You call yourself a rebel when you feel like the other side is against you. But what's ironic is that the other side will also more than likely call themselves the rebels because they feel like you are against them. So it's this weird tug of war situation going on. All sides feel like they're rebels in their cause. And it was no different back then, and it's no different today. We're all rebels at the end of the day. So I'm guessing this episode is going to be about the Declaration of Independence. And I know I say declaration weird. Declaration. I know I say that weird. I have dyslexia, so sometimes my speech can be a bit off. I try my best, I really do, but sometimes the brain and the mouth don't connect properly.
It is not a quibble in politics. It is this plain truth, which the most ignorant peasant knows, that no man has a right to take their money without their consent. I know this.
If we are conquered, our lands go with yours. But if we are victorious, we hope you will help us to recover our just rights. Captain Solomon, Ahanawanamont.
That's right, the Native Americans also helped out.
Black, white, and Native American soldiers would serve in regiments more integrated than American forces would be again for almost 2 centuries.
Let's go. It's amazing what happens when you unite despite skin color. At the end of the day, your skin color should never matter.
To steady his men, Prescott leaped onto the unfinished parapet and bellowed at the warships, "Hit me if you can."
I'm trying to taunt them.
Looking up at the American positions, General Howe believed the hill could be taken by what was called a turning movement. While one column assaulted the redoubt from the left.
I like how they map these things out for you so you can visually understand what the heck is going on.
The notion that the British Army is this battle-tested, experienced force, they're good, there's no doubt about it. Their officers are good, they're very disciplined for the most part. But they are as scared and as new to this as the Americans are.
Interesting. I never heard of that before. I always assumed the British soldiers were battle-ready, experienced men that knew what they were doing. But no, apparently a lot of them were not like that at all.
This time, the Patriots behind the fence waited till the Grenadiers got within 50 yards before opening fire. It was hard to
The sound mixing is wild. I'm wearing earphones and I have the volume quite high, so I'm hearing a lot of things. I feel like I'm there.
At the bottom of Breed's Hill, General Howe was determined to come at the Americans one more time.
Again? We're gonna go again?
It was surprising how they would step over their dead, as though they had been logs of wood.
It's almost like you have to numb your brain in order to do that. That's wild, to step over dead bodies as more shots are being fired.
It was all over in a matter of minutes. The Patriots had been driven from Breed's Hill. 115 Americans had been killed, and another 305 wounded.
Oh my gosh. It did so good for the first half and then it just collapsed.
The British officer in charge of the burial detail boasted that they had stuffed the scoundrel with another rebel into one hole, and there he and his seditious principles may remain. Saturday gave us a dreadful...
You should never celebrate death. Ever. At least that's my opinion, but I don't think you should ever be celebrating any kind of death. Ever, ever, ever.
From these data, calculate the time and expense necessary to kill us all and conquer our whole territory. Benjamin Franklin.
Well, now I feel sad. And we're only barely even 1/3 into this episode.
It is clear by the time the Continental Army is signed into being in the late spring of 1775 that its commander-in-chief can be nobody else. There's something about his presence that makes him the inescapable choice.
That's what I talked about in my reaction to the movie A More Perfect Union. I touched on how George Washington had this presence about him that was just so indescribable. Something about him made people feel safe, protected. I'm not sure what the right word would be, but he was just somebody that people knew they could rely on.
But his appearance alone made him stand out in Philadelphia. He was about 6'3" when the average height of the men he would lead into battle was around 5'7".
He towered over everybody, apparently.
He's got a brain built for executive action.
I feel like the actor that played George Washington in the TV show John Adams, I felt like he didn't do the character justice. He just seemed too gentle, too meek, too submissive, I guess. I'm not sure how to describe it, but I just didn't really feel like that George Washington was George Washington. However, in the movie A More Perfect Union, I feel like that actor that played George Washington had that commanding presence, had that fatherly, stern sort of demeanor that you needed to respect.
More riflemen soon followed, from Pennsylvania and Maryland, as well as more Virginians. Their rifles were far more accurate than the smooth-bore muskets most patriots.
It's amazing how many people, men and women, were willing to fight for this idea, this freedom that they all desperately wanted. These men and women were willing to fight in a war that they didn't even know. There was no guarantee for a win. You know what I mean? That's a lot to sacrifice for. It's very admirable.
I think we have to understand Washington as both the figurehead without whom American liberty would not have survived. At the same time, he's an enslaver of 317 men, women, and children. He acted as an enslaver in the ways that enslavers did. He bought and sold people. He broke up families. Do not look for gilded statues of marble men. They were not that, and neither are we, and neither is anybody at all.
Yeah, it's very important to acknowledge. I've never understood people that looked at these founding fathers as almost gods, in a sense. It's like people today who look at celebrities, movie stars, those kinds of people, and treats them as if they were gods of sorts. People look at the founding fathers like that, and I never understood that, because at the end of the day, they were still human. They had their weaknesses, limitations, problems. They were normal men. And when I say normal, I'm not talking about status or money or power or any of that kind of thing. I'm talking about their human nature. Even George Washington, who had this incredible presence about him, was still human at the end of the day. He still made mistakes. He was not perfect. You can respect the man, but also acknowledge the mistakes that he made. It does not have to be black and white, one or the other. It can't be. However, you also can't just condemn all these men and just say like, oh, well, they're evil because of X, Y, and Z. It's like, yeah, but I'm sure you also have your X, Y, and Z too, right? If you're going to cast a stone, look at yourself first before you throw it. So you can do both things. You can respect the people for what they've done, but you can also acknowledge some of the things that were not great.
Cannonade went on for more than 7 hours, firing more than 3,000 rounds of shot and hollow balls filled with combustible material.
Oh my gosh.
In mid-afternoon, landing parties rowed ashore. They hurled torches into
The amount of destruction is just insane. The amount of death, too, just awful.
The most successful Patriot commander was John Manley, a sea captain from Marblehead. He managed to seize 7 British vessels before the end of the year.
They say all these people's names, and unfortunately, I don't remember most of them. And I feel pretty bad about that. I feel like I should know each and every one of these individuals that this documentary is talking about, but I do not. It's unfortunate. It sucks too because I was such a history nerd in high school, so it makes me feel sad that I don't remember a lot of this time period.
One morning, not long after he had moved in, he noticed a 6-year-old African-American named Darby Vassell swinging on the gate. Vassell remembered saying he had been born in the house, and his parents had worked there. Washington urged him to come inside and get something to eat. He had plenty of chores for him to do. When Darby asked what sort of wages he could expect, Washington thought the question impertinent and unreasonable.
You're just expecting this little boy to do all the chores around the house and not get compensation for it? I mean, I think it's common sense to pay somebody for their services, but whatever.
Britain is the biggest slave trading nation on earth. Nevertheless, the British believe that if they can convince enough slaves to abandon their masters in the South, to take up arms against the American rebels, that this is a manpower pool that can also derange the economies of the southern states.
It's not that the British are anti-slavery, by any means.
Yeah, no. They just wanted more men. They needed more people on their side, so they're like, hey, it's an opportunity. If we can get these individuals to fight against our enemies, then maybe we can win.
Dunmore's proclamation helped drive Southern slaveholders to the side of the revolutionaries.
I mean, it's a very smart tactic to use their slaves against them, if the slaves are willing to take up that offer, because who wouldn't want to be free? You know, they're promising them freedom for probably a short amount of time, but they're promising their freedom, so why wouldn't you take it?
George Washington called Lord Dunmore a monster and an arch traitor to the rights of humanity.
I just cannot imagine owning other human beings. That's just such a weird concept.
To fill out his ranks, Washington persuaded the governors of Massachusetts and New Hampshire to send him a total of 5,000 militiamen. The newcomers were so sullen, veteran soldiers called them the long-faced people.
The long-faced people.
Washington brings to Cambridge the hard no of a Virginia planter, but he is also willing to revise himself to think about the whole of the potential fighting force and whether black men can play a role within it. I think many people, most people from his station would have started where he started and have gone no further.
So he does have an open-mindedness about him. He is flexible. He's willing to look at other choices for the greater good, which is what a leader should do.
It's not a question of who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. It's what can I get from making this decision right now in this place at this time among these people?
Yeah, that's a really good statement. I completely agree. Again, it's not always black and white. There's a lot of gray in between. I mean, life is gray. I'm a pretty black and white person, but I understand the concept that life is just gray. Sometimes it's not good and evil. Sometimes it's just perspective. And your decisions will more than likely come from where you are at in life. The people during this time period were not purely good, and they weren't purely evil either. They were somewhere in between.
The real distance turned out to be 270 miles. Nothing could have prepared Arnold for the ordeal he and his men were about.
It's a long way.
In the mornings, wet clothes were glazed with ice, one man wrote, thick as a pane of glass.
Oh my gosh. This is not worth it, y'all.
It snowed on the 19th day and rained relentlessly for days afterwards. Then it snowed again.
Oh my gosh, give him a break.
America is this huge continent. There's tornadoes, there's hurricanes, there's winter storms.
We got it all here, baby.
Not just fighting each other. In a profound way, they are fighting the American climate and geography and topography.
Yeah, that is so true. People don't understand how massive America is. Golly, it's a huge country with so many different land and weather and just cultures. Just America's huge. It's not just New York. It's not just LA. It's not just Orlando. It's not just Dallas. Like this country is massive. There's more to America than meets the eye.
When a ricocheting bullet fragment tore through Arnold's left leg, he had to be carried back to camp.
Oh, it's awful.
Captain then decided to wait for Montgomery and his men to break through. But Montgomery never made it.
Oh, it's so sad.
John McPherson and 11 others were killed.
That failed.
Still others remained disaffected, favoring neither side, hoping somehow to carry on with their lives while their fellow Americans, suspicious of their neutrality, fought things out.
I don't know why that's funny to me. There's just some people that are like, can you all just figure out your fighting and find a resolution with all of this so we can all just get back to our lives, please? Let's just stop.
On January 9th, 1776, a slender pamphlet titled Common Sense was published in Philadelphia, the most important pamphlet in American history. It was signed simply, An Englishman. Its author, a recent newcomer to America, was 38-year-old Thomas Paine.
Oh, I remember reading that in high school.
It just made people listen and made people think. At a time when the Congress would never have thought of attacking the king personally. King George III, the crown of England. They were always like, oh, he's not really getting it. It's Parliament that's our problem. The king needs to help us. He just called the king a beast.
Just straight up, he's a monster.
Some of the founders and others thought this is the moment when we can start over again. We can actually begin the world anew. And it must have been, wildly exciting at the time. And I think it still excites us that we are the product of a revolutionary moment where the world turned upside down.
And the world turned upside down.
I have made 42 exceeding strong sleds and have provided 80 yoke of oxen to drag them as far as Springfield, where I shall get fresh cattle to carry them to camp.
This documentary series so far does a really good job utilizing all these different paintings and doing a lot of great sound effects and sound mixing to tell their story. There's very few reenactment scenes, but that's okay. Like, sound takes up 70% of filmmaking. So as long as you have really good sound quality, most viewers will be good to go. I don't need to see all the details of a scene to get the story.
'Tis pity, the little time we have to spend in this world. We cannot enjoy ourselves and our friends, but must be devising means to destroy each other.
That's
Lucy
really
Knox.
sad. I mean, it would probably suck to live during this time period. It really is a gamble what century you are born into, because you could either, depending on when you're born, you could either have like the best time of your life or the worst. The absolute worst. You can be born in a time of prosperity or born in a time of war. And you have no choice of the matter.
That spring, colonists on both sides of the fighting were ravaged by a common enemy, variola major, smallpox. Highly infectious.
Yeah. I remember that.
The American Revolution coincided with a continent-wide epidemic that would last for 7 years.
7 years. Ugh, it's awful.
There were just 2 weapons against smallpox: isolating its victims to keep them from infecting others, or inoculating the still unaffected by deliberately implanting live virus into an incision in hopes that the infection they contracted would neither prove fatal nor infect anyone else before it confirmed.
Oh, it's awful. Oh, it's so terrible. Like, you only have 2 options to hopefully not get or get rid of the virus. Like, ugh.
Eventually, under fire from Virginia militiamen on shore, Dunmore and his fleet would be forced to sail away from the island. They left behind hundreds of sick African-American men, women, and children. A Virginian who reached the island a day or 2 later never forgot what he saw.
Oh gosh, what did he see?
We were struck with horror at the number of dead bodies, in a
Oh
state of
my gosh,
putrefaction,
that's literally
without a shovel
one
full
of my
earth
worst
upon them.
nightmares. I
Others
don't
gasping
even
for
want to
breath.
think about it. I don't want to imagine it. I don't want to think about it. That's terrible.
That same spring, smallpox would end the American dream of capturing Canada as well.
Why do you want to capture Canada? You're in a full-blown war.
20 to 60 men fell ill every day, and 15 to 20 died. 2 great pits were dug, in which the dead were heaped each evening, one man recalled, with no other covering but the rags in which they died.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Not only is war going on, but a deadly virus is going on as well. Like, that's hell right there.
O Britons, one Rhode Islander lamented, "How art you fallen that you hire foreigners to cut your children's throats?"
Wow. That's savage.
On June 7th, Richard Henry Lee of Virginia introduced resolutions in Congress declaring
My name is Richard Henry Lee. Virginia is my home.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights.
Is that the actual document with all the scribbles and scratch outs?
Thomas Jefferson was proposing something altogether new and radical in the world. It was the American people's right, he argued. It was their duty to throw off tyranny and learn to govern themselves.
From the beginning to the end, this institution bounded his life, even though he knew it was wrong. How could you know something is wrong and still do it? Well, that is the human question for all of us.
Very true. Again, before you throw that stone, look at yourself first. It is hypocritical to point the finger at another person when you have your own problems.
When Rhode Island delegate Stephen Hopkins, who had palsy, signed the document, he is said to have remarked, "My hand trembles, but my heart does not."
I'm getting chills. So far, every single time we get to this moment in any medium of film, I get chills during this event.
Hearing the list of George III's alleged crimes so angered the men that a number of them raced down Broadway to Bowling Green, tied ropes to the statue of the king, and pulled it to the ground. Pieces of the shattered statue were dispatched by wagon to Litchfield, Connecticut, where patriots melted the gilded lead into bullets.
Wow, that is the definition of savage. They melt a statue of you and turn it into bullets to shoot at your own men. That's crazy.
And we are going to push every lever we had to be able to make this democracy real and to make these visions, these values real, rather than hypocritical.
Yeah, it's just gonna take a couple hundred years to get there. Maybe more than a couple hundred.
We hold, they say, these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Every plowman knows that they are not created equal.
And the king had sent a great fleet to New York with thousands of troops to prevent that from ever happening.
Yeah, I don't think that worked out very well for King George. It's incredible how long these episodes are, because each one's almost or is 2 hours long, but the episodes are pretty entertaining. They don't feel too long, if that makes sense. I guess if you're somebody that doesn't like history, these episodes would feel like they drag on and on and on, but as someone who likes history, I'm enjoying it so far.